Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome into the midweek edition. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And we are ready to talk some ball. Turn that page and get some insight from a black shirt. We will welcome in Jay Moore around 5:30 or so. Big Ten buffet time with Rick Pizzo. Mr. Rick is back in hour two, and it's a Babbers Wednesday. Mike Babcock, all things Nebraska. Excited to get his take on things Saturday past, Saturday around the quarter, the sellout streak, all things Big Red. And I know some of you are, you're trying. God love you. You're trying to stay with it. You're trying to stay engaged. You're trying to stay where your thoughts can be positive about Nebraska football after a loss. And we'll take some thoughts and calls from you as well today. Numbers to get in, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com and find us on Twitter. Give us a follow, Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. Already have Shane and Julie chiming in on the email. They're out of Columbus. They hear us on News Talk 900. The food and the beer was superb in Champaign. Anyone know if we're favored against Fordham? Heard seats were $12. Question for the room: can T.O. and Bill Snyder come back and coach? Just kidding, maybe. Hope someday we can be as good as our Nebraska and Iowa State brethren. Also someday be as good as Northwestern, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. The Big Ten were a fish aquarium. We would see the team logos swimming around, and our logos, that big, I had one of these, the big black sucker fish that's at the bottom. Do you ever have an aquarium?
Yeah,
they're overrated, and they stink up your living room.
They really stink it up, and the problem was I'm not sure if it was something we were doing wrong, but all our fish ended up dying like much faster than the shelf life they should have lived to. Like,
did you just spend a ton of money for like the saltwater?
No,
like,
we went simplicity.
Like goldfish.
We went simplicity. We wanted like the small little like lame fish.
Okay,
and they'd all end up dying like way too fast. So eventually we just gave it up because we had like one of the bigger fish tanks.
Sure,
too.
I had a giant fish tank in college. The house we rented, and above it was my Michael Jordan Wings poster, which was sweet. And yeah, we had fish, and it just kind of brought the funk unnecessarily. We should have probably cleaned it a little more. Now you go to like the doctor's office, and he's got the exotic 15 different color Amazon fish, right? The saltwater deal. Those are sweet. But if one of those things die on you, I mean, you're out probably like $70.
See, I'm not sure what this says about me and my brother, but my sister also has a fish tank,
okay,
and her fish do just fine.
So it's you two.
We fed the fish. We thought we did pretty well, and those things died off way too quick.
My cousin Nate, he had a piranha named Daryl.
It's funny that he named his fish.
Well, it was named after Daryl Strawberry.
Okay,
and Daryl just kept growing and growing, and then one day Daryl had to go goodbye because, I mean, he was growing as big as the tank. But I remember feeding Daryl back in the day. My older cousin had him. There's Daryl. Just wave at him, and the threat was, if you're bad, we're going to stick your hand in the piranha tank. So that was no good. I hate computers.
Yeah, those autoplay tabs just are the worst.
Well, we are on. I don't want to go to your pool party. There we go. Football. We're back. All right. So let's dive into a couple of different things. One, with Nebraska football, where are you at as a fan right now? We know that the sellout streak's been extended. We know the tickets have been snatched up. And from a roll call standpoint, are you going? Are you staying? Are you trying to move your tickets? I'd love kind of a pulse. Okay, I need to just mute this.
If you right click the tab, you should be able to mute.
I'm just gonna mute the speakers.
That works
there
too.
We go. But when it comes to Nebraska and Fordham, you're going to go. I think a lot of you will go because it's going to be great weather, first time in forever. You're going to be back, and hopefully it's a yes, right? Hopefully it's a win. It should be a win for Nebraska. But when it comes to Nebraska fans, you're just mad right now, and that's the emails, that's the tweets, that's the frustration. You're mad. Not that you just lost, but how you lost, right? And that is something that you're having a hard time getting over, and totally get it, man. I mean, I don't like sounding like a knucklehead saying, oh, yep, 7-8 wins, sure. To that point, to the bigger picture, where are you at? Let's play a little buy and sell. Let's play a little buy and sell real quick. From a Nebraska standpoint, are you buying or selling or holding on getting to the bowl season, getting to 6 wins? I thought Illinois was viciously important, okay, to get to 6 wins. And if you can't beat Illinois, man, here's what I don't know, and here's what I wonder. I absolutely think the team can get coached better. I think the team can play better. I think they can get better. And maybe part of their problem isn't their physical ability, because I think Zach Duval and the strength and conditioning crew have done a remarkable job. I think the investment from the kids have been phenomenal. But when it comes to putting it together on the field, between their ears, right? I mean, there's just got to be some awareness. There's just got to be some football IQ. And you can coach and rep all that, but it still has to perform and produce on the field. And are guys going to play smarter? Okay? Our 4-year guy is going to play smarter for you. And no is the answer against Illinois. So if you lose to Illinois, does that automatically mean you're going to lose to Michigan State? Right? Kind of same teams. You've got a good coach in Mel Tucker with defense. You've got Pat Fitzgerald, who makes a lot of chicken salad, even when he's reloading. Some part of that football team is going to be a strength, and it's going to be really hard to beat them. Michigan, Minnesota, Purdue. I mean, I can look like your only sure win on the schedule right now, based off of Illinois, is this weekend. Now, you can win some coin flip games, but Nebraska's track record with Coach Frost is they're not going to win the coin flip games. Michigan State, coin flip. Northwestern, coin flip. Michigan, their favorite. Minnesota, we'll see how good Minnesota is. See what they look like against Ohio State. Whole new bunch of Buckeyes that should be good to go. But that's an assumption. That place is going to be rocking, and P.J. Fleck has some talent back. Stranger things can happen in the season opener. Purdue, a lot like Nebraska. Coin flip probably, even though it's in Lincoln. No comment on Oklahoma or Ohio State, and then you end with Wisconsin and Iowa. I mean, you just get different looks from Nebraska throughout the Frost era. They can play really well, but ultimately there's going to be a mistake made by Nebraska that cost them the football game. And I don't know that that's going to change. And quite honestly, I don't think they can overcome. So I have gone from buying stock in going to postseason to, I don't know, man. It's not that they can't do it, but it'd be really surprising if they get to 6 wins or more. They needed that first one. Let's go to the phones real quick. Chris with us here on Hail Varsity. Chris, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Schmitty, hey guys.
What's up, man?
So I'm selling. I'm out. I'm done. This is the I don't necessarily. I'm not calling them for the firing of all that good stuff. I'm done. I can't continue to watch bad football, and so that's why what I put into the game on Saturday was, is anything going to change? And it didn't change. So for me, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not watching any. I'm not going to games. I'm not doing anything because it hurts too bad. And it's as the apathy as a fan base is an awful place to be. So
let me ask you this: with your buddies, and you played. I mean, you were a walk-on at Nebraska, and we go back a ways, Chris. Have you ever felt apathetic before? Riley era, Bo era?
I mean, no, because I've felt the anger.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, there was a lot of anger when they let Coach Solich go. Frank was my guy. Like, he was my coach. So, I mean, that one stung a lot. So there was some disconnect through Callahan's era. Bo brought me back because there was some fire, and I thought we played physical. Coach Riley was not. That was kind of a shock hire to me, I guess. So I never really. There was no apathy there, just because I never felt connected. But man, when they brought Scott back in, it was like, this is it. And now it's just all signs point to. I don't think that this is it. I mean, clearly it isn't, because I don't know what to blame. Is it a curse? Is it the fact that they can't coach? I have no idea where to point the finger. But at this point, I don't really care. I'm just not going to invest any of my time, or resources or emotions into it any longer right now. So.
Well, Chris, I hope you find something Saturday, brother, and we'll see how things shake out. Appreciate your time, man. Thanks for the phone call.
Yep. See you, bud.
That's Chris. You can join us at 466-377-6800, 825-5865. So has that anger turned into don't care? Check out. I'm not promoting that. I hope that does not happen, but you've had enough kicks to the junk, football ripped away from you, a la Charlie Brown. Over the years, I'm not blaming anybody who finds something else to do on Saturday. I know where we'll be. We'll be getting the morning show going at 7 a.m. in the rail yard. I know we'll be doing postgame. I as bad as Saturday was, it's still football. It's still Nebraska football, and that's the $1 million question. Why? Isn't it? Why is it like this? And there's 100 different answers. Why is the quarterback not playing like he's a freshman? Why is the offensive line not doing their thing to help the run game? Why is the wide receiving core that's supposed to be special or really talented, why are some guys that are game breakers not seeing the field more? Why is there zero separation? Why every game is there 3 or 4 game-changing plays, Elijah, that turn momentum, turn the tide of the game, and you have 3 or 4 different contributions that help you lose a one-score game, and it's 1,000% someone not doing it to you, it's you doing it to yourself. And it's been ongoing. And there's a lot of theories out there to why, and it might be between their ears when it comes to players. It may be a coach that was so good at his previous stop, and as a coordinator, that guy didn't have a lot of experience in close ball games, right? I mean, Oregon wasn't putting a 2-minute drill together very often in the fourth quarter. Didn't have to. They were up by 30. Central Florida, I know they went 6-7 that first year, but in year 2, man, they were something special. And I think they were probably a Power 5 team playing a bunch of Group of 5s. Aside from Auburn, obviously. So there's some reason there. But mailbag with Stuart Mandel from The Athletic, and you had a Nebraska fan write in, Elijah. And, he's already kind of moving on to how attractive is the Nebraska job. Kind of a defeatist email to Stuart Mandel. Can Nebraska get anybody if they've got to make that tough call at some point and change coaches? And Stewart made a lot of good points about Nebraska still is an attractive job. Nebraska is a place you can still win. It's just not. And I think your demand, your standard as a fan, you all want national championships and totally get it. But I think you'd probably maybe give up that firstborn for a 10-win season or a 10-2. I mean, let's get to 7, 8, 9 wins first and then build on that. That's where they're at, honestly. And it's going to be real tough. They can get better. They can get some confidence. Maybe Fordham and Buffalo whip them into shape. They can get better. They're good kids. They're talented players. They need to be coached better. And see where things shake out with Oklahoma. But there's opportunity. What do they do with it is the question. And it kind of comes back to why. And biggest shock to the system. And, you are what your history tells you are. But I would count me in the group that expected, crazily enough, clean football last Saturday. Right? I mean, you just like, oh, my God. That's how it's going. And I hate to just beat this dead horse. It's glue now. But it's a reality as you look towards Saturday and beyond, as we kind of try and handicap the rest of the year. And Chris, there's a lot of Nebraska fans like Chris, Elijah, that are just like, out. That guy played for 4 years for him.
Well, but on the other side of things, there's talent within this program. I think you can see that from the outside. You can see it when they watch the games. Is it's coming down to them shooting themselves in the foot. You can see what Bo Pelini took a team with talent, and he was instantly turning them into a 9-4 team. I'm not saying that's the trajectory for this Nebraska football team, but it's not a lost cause. I haven't become apathetic. Maybe I become apathetic based on how the results come this year. We'll see. That's to be determined. But it's not like the Husker football team is a lost cause. I mean,
I don't know that everyone's checked out yet. If couple of weeks yet to get right. We'll take more of your calls. We'll get to Mike Babcock, Rick Pizzo, Jay Moore. Hail Varsity rolling forward on a Wednesday. We are presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Pizzo's on the way next hour. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. It's Hail Varsity Radio. More of your calls, 466-3776. Emails, chris@hailvarsity.com. Mike Babcock shortly. Jason's been hanging on. Jason, thanks for your patience. Go ahead, dude.
Schmitty, your loyal sidekick needs to use a little less herbal essences. I was giving him a hard time off air.
Just the old velvet hammer, huh?
We've got so much talent. That just makes me feel so great. Everybody talent, all the recruiting analysts, all the Omaha Lincoln media. Oh, yeah, luckily we've got talent. Boy, Minnesota showed us what's up with our talent when they left 33 guys up in Minneapolis, St. Paul last year and just embarrassed us. They didn't completely obliterate us on the scoreboard, but they, with 33 players at home, they still pushed us around. Illinois came in and said, oh, so you guys are a blue blood? What's that? Last year, and then they did it again this year. I'm glad we have talent. We should. We got 900 and some wins. We got 9 Outland trophies, 3 Heismans, 5 national titles, a couple of close call, almost national titles. I hope we have a little bit of talent at 10th and Vine. That's great, but I want football players at this point. I don't care about talent. I know that's a component, and I know I'm whitewashing it, but Elijah, I am so sick of talent. We've had more talent than Wisconsin and Iowa in the recruiting ranking year after year after year. Maybe not this year, but for the last 10 or 15 years, we're always ahead of them. We're in the 20s. They're 39th or 40th or 28th, and we're 20th.
So it comes down, Jason, to, let me jump in, to some development with that talent or putting the talent together and in position to win. It's a multifaceted discussion, but you need players to win, clearly, and on paper you've had that, but you've not been able to get that result, and part of that talent needs to be better when it comes to making plays and making some decisions to not try and make a play. So it's a vicious cycle and circle right now of, again, back to that central question, why is this going sideways like it is?
Well, if you had to sum up one thing, Frost is a good guy, great player, great family. I wish him and his family well, but he's just, at Nebraska, he's not a good football coach. He is trying, he means well, but it's clear. If we had a good football coach here, it wouldn't take 5 years. It would take a couple years to get things righted, and we'd feel like things are going in the right direction.
So are you ejecting or not on 2021?
I'm not ejecting, but I've been off the Frost bandwagon ever since Minnesota pushed us around last year. That was rock bottom. He probably should have been fired after the game.
Wow.
Good luck. We love you, Frost, but you can't lose to a Minnesota team 33 down when the whole state of Nebraska for 2 or 3 years was making fun of the Minnesota head coach every chance we got.
Yep. No, you got to be better against most of your foes in the West, but we'll see how Saturday looks. Jason, thanks for the call, brother. Appreciate it.
Yep, see you, bud.
Yep, more calls. We'll get to those 466-3776, and we'll check in with Mike Babcock. Dan tweets in, this fan base, me included, is addicted to hope. If we curb stomp these next two, show respect against OU, then beat Michigan State, there'll be a bowl game for winter vacation. Very true, Dan. If, and that hope addiction, very real, because you can't quite walk away from the possibility.
And I just want to get back to Jason's point. I guess I'm saying there's talent on the field because I'm frustrated seeing these guys go into the NFL and doing well for themselves in the NFL. Like under Mike Riley, there weren't even guys going off to the NFL. I mean, with the exception of guys that were left over from the Pelini years. But now I'm seeing guys that are going off to the NFL and doing well, but why aren't they playing well at Nebraska? It's frustrating.
Oh, completely. We bring in Mike Babcock, historian, author, Hall of Famer, at MD Babs on Twitter, Hail Varsity Magazine, HailVarsity.com. Babbers, we're trying to move past Illinois, and it's still just kind of perplexing as to what happened with Nebraska. Well, we know what happened. They had self-inflicted wounds. As long as you've covered football, how and why? Can you answer the why? Why is it still happening?
No, I can't. If I could answer that, I probably would have a job coaching, maybe. I don't know.
Babbers, I think you'd be a sweet coach, man.
Yeah, right. You know, it's a little bit like we talked about last week, Smitty. I mean, control the things you can control. Nebraska didn't do that. You know, all the things that were talked about in fall camp and in the spring, you know, cutting down on the turnovers, the critical penalties, those kinds of things, they just resurfaced again. I mean, it was like the same story again. And, you know, that's the thing, I guess, that's frustrating to people, is that we identified, or there were things that were identified that needed to be corrected, and acknowledged that they needed to be corrected, and acknowledged that that's what was being worked on. But then you get into the game and the same things happen, and that's the thing that I think is so frustrating.
Mike Babcock's with us, HailVarsity.com and magazine, at MD Babs on Twitter. Mike, would we talk about rhythm and play calling and Adrian and skill guys and offensive line? Were you surprised at the game plan, the adjustment or lack thereof, or the turnaround time on adjustment, and quite frankly, production from the offensive line? Did you think it'd be difficult, or did you kind of say early on, okay, this ain't going well?
Well, no, I still think that on some level, and this is why I'm not a coach, but you have to commit to something, and you have to stay with it, and you have to have patience. And I know that Nebraska made some mistakes and put itself in a difficult situation, and maybe couldn't have the patience that you needed. But I still think that that's the thing. Ultimately, you're the one that needs to be imposing your will on the other team, not being concerned about, well, they're in a different defense than we prepared for. Let them respond to you, what you're doing. Have patience and be committed to what you're trying to do. And, I don't always see that. And, we're right back to Adrian Martinez is the leading rusher again. Mm-hmm. He had the most carries. And I think he's most effective when he's moving. I don't know. He's not a drop-back passer in my mind. Mm-hmm. He needs to be moving. But I think you've got to figure out somehow to establish some kind of a running game. And I didn't see it. Sevin Morrison was a running back that got a lot of people were talking about him a lot in fall camp. He didn't play. Gabe Irvin Jr. started. What did he get? 12 carries. Marquise Stepp came in. He carried 3 times, had a nice reception, scored a touchdown on one of his carries, and we didn't see him again.
It's an odd rotation, to say the least.
Yeah, you got to commit to something and make the other team respond to you.
Mike, after 4 years of Scott Frost, do you see an offensive identity that has been consistent aside from Scott Frost trying to go fast? They've said they're going to try to commit to running the ball, and they haven't done that. They said they've tried to commit to going fast, and, well, I don't see much speed on that offense this year from what I saw in that Illinois game. Is there an offensive identity?
In my opinion, no, there isn't. That Nebraska hasn't committed anything, and you're right. The up-tempo thing, they've backed off that. That's not one of the pieces right now. But I think you have to establish an identity, commit to it, and be patient and stay with it, and wear the other team down if you can. But maybe they're not at that point. Maybe they don't have the players that can do that. In my mind, they did. That was my thought. But then I see what happens at Illinois, and I start to wonder.
Mike, a thought here on the sellout streak being extended. What's the sellout streak mean to you? Is it vitally important to this program, or is it something that is maybe not as important anymore? I mean, how do you tackle that?
We probably talked about this too. I mean, there was always this idea that at some point boosters would step in and buy up the unused tickets and keep that thing going. I think on some level Nebraska looks at it and that's part of that's the one thing that we still have that carries over. We're not winning championships and that sort of thing. We don't have consistent national relevance, but we do have the sellout streak. But in the whole scheme of things, no, I don't think that's critical because as we've seen as well, sellout streak doesn't mean capacity crowds. Mm-hmm. The tickets are all sold, but the seats aren't filled. So no, I don't think that's as important as maybe some people do. But it's going to continue for at least for one more week. And when you get into Big Ten play, probably you've got a little better chance of selling out. So maybe Buffalo is the one where donors have to step into and buy up tickets.
And I love that underserved youth and their families are getting to go. That's awesome. Introduce a new fan to Nebraska football, and there's a lot of folks that don't get a chance to see, and now they have that opportunity. So last thought here, Babbers, as we talk Nebraska moving forward here. Elijah and I were kind of toying with this. We'll get into it a little more next segment, but just from a play calling standpoint, there was the collaboration and then just utter lack of preparedness with the play caller, and Scott was doing that. Didn't sound to me like the collaboration cut any corners on prepping. You can have a bad day as a coach and as a play caller, but it just didn't look like there was much prep there. And is that something Scott should consider, or would you consider it if you're in Scott's shoes? I should ask it that way, about maybe delegating a little more.
Well, I think so. I think that's one of the things that was difficult for Frank Solich. He tried to do the same thing that Tom Osborne did. Tom was his own offensive coordinator the entire time he was a coach. That was he was unique. It's difficult to do that and to take care of all the other things that you have to take care of. So from that standpoint, I would say yes. I think the delegation of responsibility is an important thing.
What's coming up with you, Babbers, as far as the website and magazine partner?
Well, we got Tom's Time is back on the website, and now we're looking forward to the next issue of the magazine, which was going to deal with the sellout streak. But since it's going to continue, I think we'll probably move in a little bit different direction, maybe something to do with Oklahoma, Nebraska.
Well, that's around the corner. I can't wait for Norman. I'm not sure many folks in Nebraska are uttering that, but I can't wait to go down to Norman and see. Let's see if Nebraska is over 500 as they head into Norman. But Fordham coming to town, the Fighting Scullies, and then Buffalo. Babbers, love your takes. Thanks for the time. Appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Mike Babcock with us at MD Babs on Twitter is where you find him. And read him with Hail Varsity Magazine, HailVarsity.com, 8553 Husker is where you subscribe. HailVarsity.com/subscribe digital and magazine. What a great platform with our friends from Hurrdat. Hour one continues on with Hail Varsity.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good stuff from Mike Babcock. More of your calls and emails, and can also give us a tweet at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence We tackled a lot. It's been a heavy first 40 minutes. 800-825-5865 or 466-3776. And when we talk about the sellout streak, we talk about Nebraska football, we talk about, are you checked out? Did Saturday do it with your outlook on the season, or are you still optimistic and hoping that the things and feel like, all right, things will get turned around, they'll get it fixed? And just the mood and the vibe and the feedback since Saturday to now has been pretty dejected, real dejected with Nebraska fans, and I get that because you're expecting to see and be something different. But the big thing with me when we look at Saturday and just the vibe, and I'm excited for it. I know it's an 11 o'clock kickoff. I know it's not a name opponent, but you get to go back to the ball game. You get to go back to a full stadium. You get to go back in gorgeous, not suppressive weather. And I don't know about you, but I missed fans last year. We all did. Miss being able to go. So there's that aspect of it. And I want to see the team get better. And you should get better. You should look awesome after a week of anger. But that anger is also going to keep some people out of the stadium this week. And you've been angry, man. You've been angry after ball games. And the most angry, like recently for my family, they've been mad about a handful of games. And I think back to some watch parties I've been at, the most angry you've been after a loss. Okay. And I think growing up just around my family and folks, whenever Oklahoma would steal one from you, clearly, right? Or you're not used to being inept against the Miamis and Florida States. The New Year's Day always would suck, like especially those 7 straight years of losing bowl games. And then there's the Colorado era where they were really tough to beat. But recent memory, just being around some friends that love Nebraska football, the A&M game, right? The 9-6 did everything but shut them out. That was robbery. The Texas game and Jerry World with Sue doing everything but blocking a kick, and he's still upset about that. Those are two of the latest. But this is different, right? This is a game you felt like Nebraska got jobbed or hosed when we talk about A&M or Texas. And then you flip it around to, Nebraska made a lot of mistakes. Nebraska had a miscue or two against an Iowa. Nebraska had a special teams blunder against a Wisconsin, and now there's Illinois. This may be top 5 when it comes to negative, frustrated, angry fan reaction.
And I don't know if anger is the right word for this week as much as dejected. Is Nebraska fans, after the hope that was placed into Scott Frost 4 years ago and what's been coming out of the Nebraska coaching staff over the past 4 years was that Nebraska is supposed to be better come year 4, and they didn't look any better than in the past 3 years in that game against Illinois. I mean, whenever I think back to games personally where I was angry afterwards, I think back to that game in Wisconsin in the snow where Melvin Gordon rushed for 400 yards on Nebraska.
You were just embarrassed.
Yeah.
There was no answer for Melvin in the snow. By the way, you're up 17-3 in that game, end of the first quarter.
Yeah, because the game started out so well, and you go, Nebraska's finally going to go into Camp Randall and win one, and then Melvin Gordon with his, 5 60-yard rushing touchdowns or whatever it was.
408.
Yeah, it was terrible. And I don't know if anger is the right word for this Illinois game as much as it is just embarrassed is up there, dejected is up there. It just feels like it's not getting any better, and it's not going to get any better. Hopeless might be the word. That it just feels like this coaching staff and what they're trying to do here is hopeless.
I don't feel hopeless, but I don't feel confident. I just don't.
I'm closer to hopeless than confident.
No, I'm not confident, but I'm not at hopeless. All right, somebody needs to get us a 6-pack and give us a hug, right? That's how the first hour's gone, and life's going to be okay. I get it, but man, you're disgusted. You're disgusted with that, and they can do something about it. That's the good news. This isn't the last game of the season. This isn't saying peace out to a bowl game opportunity. right? I think there's I hope there's enough moxie with this football team that the kids themselves will look in the mirror and say, we're better than that, we're smarter than that, that they respond. And again, Fordham, Buffalo, you should respond. But are you able to gather and go out, play a hard, good, clean game against Oklahoma? Even if you get beat by 30, I don't care. I do not care what the score looks like against Oklahoma. I know that's crazy to say, but go play hard.
I mean, people were feeling that way after the Ohio State game last year, where you came out and you played a good half. Nebraska, I think, played up to their level in that Ohio State game last year, and you still lost by 20, but I don't think Nebraska fans were dejected by that loss. You just went, that's a damn good Ohio State team we just lost to.
Yeah, absolutely, but man, what did Nebraska in from keeping that even more respectable? Turnovers, no pass rush, like things that they're supposed to be better at now, and they're not. From a taking care of yourself standpoint, and that's the maddening part. Let's go to the NFL here for a second, and we talk about guys that are former MVP winners, and that's hard to do. But Cam getting the old heave ho, and it's the old Mac Jones show. I'm a little bit surprised that New England cut Cam just a little bit, because the guy is a former MVP, and I know New England wasn't Brady great last year, but I would say this. I think it's really hard to keep Cam Newton and his personality around if he's not starting. Mm-hmm. He is the last guy in the world I ever see as being able to take a backup job when he still feels he has ability left. And vaccination status, Belichick shut that notion down that his vaccination status played a role in him getting cut. I don't know that would pass legal status, but I honestly, behind closed doors, yeah, Cam, we need you to get the shot. No? Okay, clean your locker up.
Well, I see it less about that, and I see it much more if you've got a rookie quarterback who really did outplay Cam through training camp and through preseason by accounts out of New England and by what I've seen on the film in preseason. And I don't think you want a guy who's a former league MVP with a big personality thrower breathing down the neck. Like, you don't want to hear what Cam Newton's going to be saying on social media or tweeting or whatever he can be saying whenever he's on the bench.
Yes. It's the old absolutely. It's a distraction. He's the last guy you can keep in a locker room if he's not getting his way. Mm-hmm. Period.
And what happens when Mac Jones has a bad game? You don't want Cam Newton taken to Twitter.
No. Or just disrupting the locker room. Why didn't you put me in? I mean,
exactly.
We'll see. I don't know that he's done, though. But he is fascinating because he's still really talented and a high-level athlete. We'll wind down hour one next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, Hail Varsity Radio, Hour 1. Rick Pizzo, Big Ten Network, Big Ten Buffet. Rick was in Champaign. Rick will be here for Buffalo. And we'll get his take on a slew of games, man. You got Iowa hosting Indiana. You got Wisconsin, Penn State. That's just going to be monster. And then don't forget, tomorrow night's going to be sneaky good with Minnesota hosting Ohio State. Can you root for either one? Neither can win. The Buckeye upset by Minnesota. Can you stomach that if it's the boat rower who does it? I don't know.
Let's be honest. Yes.
Because it's Ohio State? Is that a danger game, do you think, for Ohio State? Or do you expect them to go roll in and win by 17?
Well, they still have an unproven quarterback, and all accounts are this guy is he's the next reload? Big thing. He's going to be great. But did you see what happened to Spencer Rattler at the beginning of last season for Oklahoma? He finished his year super strong. Don't get me wrong, but at the beginning of last year, Spencer Rattler
was young.
I don't even want to say he was like. I mean, he was average to bad. I mean, he was making the type of mistakes that whenever a rookie makes them in the NFL, you go, oh, he's making rookie mistakes. He was making those freshman mistakes for Oklahoma last year. And you got to expect those even with a 5-star talented quarterback like you're going to have at Ohio State. So we'll see. It's tough that he's going to have to be going up against a Big Ten team. I'm still banking that the Buckeyes are going to win with that wide receiver core, but I'm not going to say I'm going to root for Minnesota, but I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be mad if they won. It's
interesting. That'll be on Fox, and Buckeyes roll in, man. I mean, it's a big ball game. It's a big ball game, big opener. So the win predictor here, the line's 14. We may have to do an early steak and a beer.
Early?
Well, yeah, we got to do it tomorrow.
Well, what are the other lines in the Big Ten? What's the line in the Wisconsin Penn State? Do we have that one pulled up?
I think it's 5.5. Probably
towards Wisconsin, I assume.
I would think, because they're right next to each other. I think Iowa's favored by 3 over Indiana.
Yeah, I did see that one.
So, a reminder to buckle up, friends. Nearly 70% of people in fatal crashes in Nebraska not wearing a seatbelt. If used properly, a seatbelt can reduce the risk of fatal injury by up to 60%. Your best defense in any crash. Buckling up. Brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. We'll have quite a Friday forecast for you. We want to see you down at the Single Barrel. Incredible food, steaks, pork chops, drinks. I mean, fun to be had by all. The Single Barrel now inside the Graduate. The old Single Barrel just to the south of the Embassy. Rosie's in there now. But the Single Barrel now inside the Graduate Hotel. We were back for Roadshow Fridays at the Graduate. We want to see you down. We're down there 4 to 6. Kranak is making the road trip down, so he'll be with me on Friday afternoon 4 to 6 in the Graduate. And Single Barrel is incredible. Amazing food. You're going to love it. We want to see you down there 4 to 6. Get dinner, get a drink, enjoy, and get the old golf swing dusted off with that top golf suites they have down there. So inside the Graduate at the Single Barrel, where we're going to be Friday with a Hail Varsity Roadshow 4 to 6. Then Elijah Herbel will clearly not wear his Southeast Knights jersey to do Southeast and Southwest.
I think I come from a unique perspective, having played in the game, though. That's a big one for both those schools, and I'm really looking forward to that one. Should be a fun game. Southeast with that offense, and Southwest dropped a disappointing game to Gretna, but should be fun.
Hour 2. Rick Pizzo's on the way, and of course we'll check in with Jay Moore.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back into Hour 2, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. It is Big Ten buffet time. We say hi to Rick Pizzo, Big Ten Network at BTN, Rick Pizzo. Rick, it was awesome to share a nitro coffee with you in the press box Saturday. How are you?
It was, man. It was great to see you in person, right? Not like a Zoom meeting, not a radio conversation. We actually got to see each other face to face, and it was interesting. We got to talk a little bit pregame, right, about what a Nebraska win could mean, what a Nebraska loss could mean, and obviously we're talking about the latter.
We are, and it was just interesting to watch that game unfold. I know you were there for the post game presser for Illinois and also for Nebraska, and you were there covering it for the network. And I had my thoughts going in, and I have gone Nixon tape on all of last week's commentary and just erased or torched because I sound like a fool with what I thought Nebraska would be able to do or would be good at doing. Now, plenty of games left to get better. I get all that. But, Rick, what were your expectations, and did Saturday shock you?
Saturday didn't shock me. Listen, I'm not trying to sound like I'm the smartest guy on the planet, but I told everybody and anybody that would listen that any team that slept on Illinois was going to be in a lot of trouble. And Brett Bielema has a formula. He has 17 super seniors. He has experience. Everybody wants to say this is a terrible loss for Nebraska. it's a bad loss in the sense that we did the same things this game that we did all of last year to lose, but it's not a bad loss as far as the opponent that beat them, and I hope everybody understands this. Now, that being said, to listen to Scott's post-game press conference, but even more so to listen to what he said on Monday, when he said that basically half of the defensive game plan was gone because Illinois came out in sets that they didn't expect. Now, that to me is a little bit more troubling. If you as a staff can't figure out that they are maybe going to do something different than you expected them to do or that you saw them do in their televised spring practice, that to me is maybe more troubling than the loss itself, if that makes sense, Chris.
Oh, completely. Rick Pizzo's with us, Big Ten Buffet, Big Ten Network at BT, and Rick Pizzo. And that's 1,000% it is you're not on the same page with your staff, because after practice yesterday, Coach Lubick, I mean, he answered every question. They weren't nasty or pointed. They were just, hey, man, what's going on with the game planning? You know, the gist there. And he's like, no, we had a play sheet for odd front. We had a play sheet for even front. And, you know, in 33 games as head coach, you've gone up against odd and even fronts. Your offense is going to be your offense. The identity part is frustrating, Rick, for Nebraska fans. You hear about downhill, you buy in, and that's a talking point that, hey, Nebraska is going to be a downhill run game. And they didn't stick with it. They abandoned it. I know they got down by 3 touchdowns, but you just weren't patient enough with it. Compared to Illinois, they were getting 2-3 yards a crack, and they had a backup quarterback in, and good old Art did what he's great at, and that's some play action. Nebraska was just a mess, and to admit that half the playbook got tossed out because you weren't prepared is not acceptable when you had 5 weeks to get ready for this thing.
It's not acceptable, but there's also, the execution, and you brought that up. And listen, at the end of the day, what do you have? You have a really good dual-threat quarterback, and I understand that you don't have a guy in the backfield that you feel like can be probably your guy or a game breaker, and you don't have a ton on the outside, but you have really good tight ends. And the funny thing is, Nebraska and Illinois, in a sense, take Adrian Martinez away, they're kind of similar, right? You have strength on the O-line, you have strength at the tight end, but you lost a ton at wide receiver. And so what do? Illinois did exactly what you need to do, and you brought it up, Chris. Art Sikowski comes in. He had the one deep pass to Deuce Pham. But other than that, he wasn't necessarily threatening the edge. He wasn't necessarily going downfield. They were setting up play action, utilizing the tight ends. The Luke Ford touchdown is the perfect example. And they were doing that without any real damage to the Nebraska defensive line. Epstein had that one long run. Other than that, there was really nothing. So Illinois did stick with its game plan because they believed it would work. And Nebraska had to get away from its game plan. Why? Partially because of that fumble by Adrian late in the first half. I know everybody wants to talk about the interception negated as the biggest play of the game. I make the argument that it's that Martinez turnover because it gives Illinois the momentum, and I think it makes everybody on that sideline, the Nebraska sideline, thinking, here we go again, the turnovers that we can't have, especially by the guy that we can't have making them.
No, that's it. And then let's go a step further with an energy zap. You get a bonus as not only do you scoop and score, and you're up 7 instead of tied, you get the football back, and then you go 8 minutes and then really put the screws to Nebraska down 2 scores, and the game plan further gets punted for some hurry up, let's score quick. Rick Pizzo's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Big Ten Network, talking Nebraska, Illinois. I think Bielema will be good at Illinois. I think he's a smart coach, a good coach, and Illinois is kind of that untapped potential with the talent they've brought in and year out. I'm not saying that they've underachieved, but maybe they can become a perennial bowl team, just another tough coach to try and win against in the West. I look at Scott Frost and the impact of this loss and the fan base and just the pressure, and really Adrian. I want to go to Adrian for a second because he's good enough to kill you, and he's good enough to make those plays. But there's also so much on his plate, Rick, that there's just not help right now. Not that there can't be more help, as guys get better around him, but they ask him to do so much, and it really just doesn't seem like a sound plan because you need help with this heavy lifting, and more times than not, Adrian hasn't had any throughout his career.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think this year, especially with no Wandale, with no other game breaker, and you hear my dog Otto agreeing with me, without Wandale, I think then he does a little bit of extra pressure, and I think that fumble put a ton of extra pressure on him because he is thinking to himself, and he is more aware than anybody else on that team that he has to be the best player on the team, and he has to be the best player on the team every play of every game. Mm-hmm. That is a lot of pressure to put on a young man. And listen, I think, and I want to make this remarkably clear, I think Scott Frost is a really good football coach. I think he's a really good play caller. And I know that folks have maybe started to weigh on those thoughts a little bit based on the results, but I think that's an accurate statement. At the end of the day, your players and the guys that you recruit have to execute your game plan if you are going to be successful. Adrian will be the first guy to tell you he did not execute that game plan on Saturday. 100%. What was he, 50% completion percentage? He had the one big run. He has to be more accurate. He made some good decisions in getting rid of the ball, but he also got away with at least a couple of throws that could have easily been fixed. Listen, those are mistakes you cannot make in your fourth year, especially when you know you are the guy. I'm not trying to pile it all on the young man. Some of it does go on the coaching staff, but at the end of the day, the plays can only be called from the sidelines. They have to be executed in between the white lines.
Rick Pizzo's with us. Execution's on the kids. It's also on the coaches to have the right guy to execute, and it's chicken or egg. I totally get you, though. I mean, it's not all great play call. What, you missed the throw? I mean,
it's not one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
All the blame doesn't go to the coaches. All the blame doesn't go to the kids. When you have success, it's the same way. The success has to be spread as well. The problem is the comment that Scott made post-game about it being the same movie. If they had lost in a different way, if they had lost because Illinois bludgeoned them and Nebraska didn't have any turnovers and they just weren't good enough on the lines to match up, that's one thing. If Illinois had beaten them because somebody goes for a career game, then that's a different thing. But the fact that it was, as Scott said in his own words, same movie, that is the biggest issue with the loss.
Rick Pizzo's with us. Rick, couple more minutes, and I know it's, I got to ask you before we get into the Big Ten slate, how is Otto at fetch? Gertie, the German Shepherd, that's her thing, man. It's either, if you're in the Lazy Boy, she wants to play fetch. If you're out back having a beer, she wants to play fetch. She's remarkably athletic, so our German Shepherd is our fetch dog, and the Labradoodle's 450 pounds, and she just watches. Otto sounds like he loves playing ball with Dad.
Otto is, if he were a high schooler right now, a high school senior, he would be a 5-star athlete as far as the recruiting services are concerned. I throw the ball. If the ball is 8 feet in the air, Otto goes 8 feet up to get it. The greatest trick that I've taught him in the entire 4.5 years of his life is that when we are out back and I am sitting in my chair next to the grill enjoying an adult beverage, he knows that if he wants to chase the ball has to be delivered directly into my lap. Not dropped at my feet, not 5 feet away. It needs to be right next to my left hand because my right hand is usually around a glass of Knob Creek, and I need to be close enough to the grill, and he understands. Trust me. He is a guy that gets. When I call the plays, he knows how to execute.
That's pretty good. Good for Otto. Let's shift over to some football. Thursday, Ohio State at Minnesota. Coach Fleck does a great job with the Gophers. Ohio State is just disgustingly loaded. Is this thing going to be tight, or is it just too much Ohio State?
No, man. I think this could be a really tight game. I don't think it's a shock if Minnesota wins. I know everybody is chalk Ohio State because of what they've done. I don't think it's a shock if Minnesota wins. Hear me out. You have a quarterback for Ohio State. I know he's a highly touted recruit in C.J. Stroud. He's never thrown a college pass. Okay? Master Teague has been good, but he has been somewhat inconsistent in the backfield. Ohio State has the entire linebacking core and part of their secondary to replace from a year ago. They look at Minnesota. Tanner Morgan, 2 years ago, all Big Ten performer. Mohamed Ibrahim, in my estimation, one of the best running backs in the country. P.J. Fleck believes all 5 of his starting offensive linemen will be NFL players. Our training camp crew was there a month ago and said that their depth on the defensive line is better than it's ever been before since they started that tour some 15 years ago. you had all those things together, a sellout crowd on a Thursday night at home. Man, I got to tell you, this is a game that I think sets the tone. I know it's week one. I know it's Thursday of week one. It's the second day of September. I think this game sets the tone for the favorites in both the East and the West, because I think Minnesota is a slight favorite in the West over Wisconsin and Iowa.
No, it could set up Minnesota something fierce. Meanwhile, as we look at Saturday, Wisconsin, Penn State, this thing, you're not messing around. You're opening up with kind of your co-favorite in the East and a lot of people's pick in the West. And Penn State's been really, really good on the road for the most part against some of the West powers, Rick. They've done well, but this might be a little bit too much to ask. I know it's an early kickoff, so some red beers are in store in Madtown as Coach Franklin and company invade. Low line there. What's your take on this here? That's a big ask to go in at Wisconsin out of the gate, isn't it?
It is, and I got to tell you, Penn State is an unknown, almost a virtual unknown. Now, Sean Clifford is going to be the guy, and Jahan Dotson's outstanding on the outside. But remember the running backs last year? You had injuries. You had guys retiring because of medical conditions. Pat Fryermuth, the outstanding tight end, left. You lost a ton defensively. I think they'll really miss Jason Owe in the middle. Mm-hmm. So you have all this change at Penn State, and then yet you look at their roster and you see all the guys that Franklin believes in are somewhat younger guys. Now, remember, you can't really look at just the eligibility this year because of the COVID year. Freshmen could be sophomores in reality. Sophomores could be juniors based on how the schools do it. But then you look at Wisconsin on the flip side, Chris. 7 of their 8 top tacklers from last year are back, including Jack Sanborn, who I think is an All-American caliber linebacker. To me, for Wisconsin, it's all about Graham Mertz. If we see the Graham Mertz or even close to the Graham Mertz that we saw in week one, his coming out party last year when he just lit up Illinois, then Wisconsin could easily win the West and potentially challenge for the Big Ten title. Now, if he's inconsistent, they have a transfer from Clemson, kind of an unknown guy in Ches Malusi running the rock, and obviously that's always been the bell cow for Wisconsin. So can he be that guy? This is interesting to me because there's as many questions with these two teams as there are with any other team that we think could potentially contend for their respective division title.
Rick, we'll get you out of here on this. Indiana, Iowa, you're going to be in Iowa City. What an opener. Iowa, incredible program and a lot back. Indiana, a magic season, a better than where they got placed in the bowl setup season.
Yep.
But their schedule's way tougher this year. But, man, they've got to have that confidence. This is going to be crazy in Iowa City.
Yeah, they have a brutal schedule, but I think they're built to handle it, Chris. I really like this Indiana team. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Tom Allen. Mm-hmm. He says Michael Penix Jr. is 100%. If Michael Penix Jr. is 100%, he's as good as any quarterback in the Big Ten. Now, they do have question marks at running back because Stevie Scott is gone, and they decided to go with USC transfer Carr as their starter, so you're not sure there. But they're loaded on the outside. Ty Freifogel is going to be a terrific receiver this year for them. Defensively, Micah McFadden returns, All-American caliber linebacker. I mean, they are deep. They are talented. And if Penix is as good as we think he can be, Indiana is going to be one of the greatest stories in college football this year. This is not going to be this like, oh, Tom Allen had a 2-year run and now they're done and they're back to being a basketball school. I just don't believe that's the case. And all that being said, my friend, you've seen enough games at Kinnick Stadium to know that is a brutal place to play and a tough place to win. And think about that crowd, how thirsty they will be, both literally and figuratively, after not watching football all of last year. Oh, my goodness. I don't anticipate any chance I'm able to get out of there on Saturday night. I think the game ends at like 7:30. I said, give me a hotel on Saturday night because there's no chance I'm trying to get through whatever maelstrom I see after that game. It's going to be awesome.
Well, Rick, we'll be watching, and thanks for making time with the little buffet hit. Rick Pizzo, Big Ten Buffet. Rick, we'll catch up again soon. Take care, man, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Chris. You too. Otto says enjoy the weekend of football.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Time for Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore. You see him on Big Red Wrap-Up. Jay, a tough season opener for Nebraska. They fall to Illinois. And as you look back, as you reviewed, man, I guess kind of the same old. What did you think going in, and what do you think now as we're removed from it?
Yeah, well, I thought Nebraska was going to play well. I really did. And just kind of, I thought it was going to be a different, song and dance and story, but unfortunately it wasn't. And the defense came out, and I thought they played well enough. They played well enough to win that football game. They kind of played physical. Obviously they had a couple mistakes, and that's going to happen. I mean, defense wasn't. You knew they were going to be a top 10 defense in the nation by any means, but it was going to be serviceable, and they're going to be able to get off the field when they need to, maybe cause some turnovers and get the ball back into an offense where you have a 4-year quarterback and better talent and experience in the wideouts and then more experience off the line. But you just see the same mistakes happening. It's mistakes are going to happen, right? We just know. Playing a perfect game is really tough. The mistakes are going to come, but for some reason this team just makes the mistakes at just the wrong time. It's roughing the passer on an interception. It's filling a punt inside of the frickin' 1 yard line, and it's fumbling before you go in the half, and they scoop and score, and even if they don't scoop and score, that momentum is so much different, how that plays out. So it's just they can't get out of their own way, it seems like when they do something really well or make a play, move the ball, then they kind of stall in the red zone, and that kind of blocks momentum. And then they do get some points on the board, and then maybe the defense comes out and, gives a big drive, or special teams has an issue. They just can't put it all together for some reason, and it's puzzling, and I'm sure it's driving the coaches up in the second floor of the stadium crazy, and I don't know how they get it fixed. I mean, we're going to year 4, and it just seems like this is the same mistakes that not only with Frost, just kind of seems like with Riley and Pliny and and back with my time with Coach Callahan, it just seems like in some of the bigger moments or times you kind of are able to capitalize, and you just can't quite do it. You make some mistakes, and but now it's happening. Back with Callahan and Pliny, it was in the big games against the good teams. The Oklahomas and the Texases and the Wisconsins and Michigan State and stuff like that. Now these are happening as teams you should beat. Nebraska should beat Illinois, in my opinion. But they just keep making mistakes and giving teams who are, I feel like they are, maybe I have Homer glasses on or whatever it is, but I feel like Nebraska is a better football team than Illinois. And they make mistakes, and you keep teams in it that they shouldn't be in it, and you give them hope, and they get the momentum, and boom, all of a sudden you're on the downfall. You're running down the hill, and you can't keep up, and you just kind of spiral out of control. So I'd just love to see him just come out and play a clean game just for once. You're not going to play a perfect game. Adrian's still going to miss some throws and probably have some drops, But, Colt might miss hopefully no more PATs, but, he might miss a long field goal. But, it's the killer. It's the penalties after a big play, a big run, a big catch, an interception, whatever it is. And then, if you do make a turnover, God forbid they pick it up a run. It just seems like we can't get the right bounces at times. So, I don't know where it starts. I just don't know in year 4 what could possibly change or whatever it is. So hopefully, they could start getting the momentum going here this weekend for them.
Jay Moore's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. I mean, you've got the trifecta here. You get out coached, you get out executed, and to your point, Nebraska really wasn't out talented. And it's one thing if you get out talented and the better team wins, but Nebraska's compiling losses where they're out coached or they're out executed, and it's a lot of self-harm. So, Jay, a thought here. You played with Coach Austin. We heard some great things about the O-line. And I think Greg's pretty cautious. He's not one to just hand out compliments or blow smoke. But the thought was, is the O-line's going to be better? It wasn't. There was no downhill run game established. That compounded with making Nebraska say, Adrian, go win it for us, man. And that isn't necessarily fair to him. And that's been the same story as well, where Adrian is your offense, and He'll do some good, but sometimes things around him break down, and he needs help. Can the O-line get better, or do you think they're going to be a work in progress all year?
No, they better get better, and I think it's a two-way street. The O-line, right? I mean, we had Jeremiah Searles on last time to Beta wrap up. He made a very good point that you go into games and they're like, hey, we're going to run the ball, but then all of a sudden you start struggling to run the ball, and the coaches just can't. You can't try to, bang your head against a brick wall or keep trying to, fit a square peg in a round hole. Like, right, you got to move on. Like, they have to have trust in that O-line. So I think the trust was, unfortunately, went away a little too quickly against Illinois. But they got to be able to establish it. And it's got to start practice. It's got to start Monday to Friday. They have to get after it. They have to come determined. I mean, offensive lineman, you want to run the ball. You want to be able to, get up there on the line and say, hey, we're running power right here, and we're going to tell you, and, and even if you know where it's going, you still can't stop it. So they got to eventually get to that point, but it's whether it was the run blocking or, the pass pro that was sloppy against games. They just didn't look very physical. It's just they look, like they're catching everything, and that could be a practice deal. I don't know if they're getting after it in practice well enough. I don't know. I'm not there watching on in the mornings to see exactly what's going on, but it's got to get better. And you can put a lot of blame on Adrian and maybe the wide receiver is not getting open enough, or Adrian overthrowing guys and not getting the run game going. This offense is going to go with this offensive line. That's just football. Period. If you want a good offense, you got to have a good offensive line. And they got to be physical. They got to accept their roles and execute their job and win their one-on-one battles and work with each other as five guys. And unfortunately, you just didn't see that, and that was kind of disappointing to see because I thought that could be a spark within this offense. We get guys that have played as many snaps as them, so hopefully it gets cleaned up. It needs to get cleaned up quick. Otherwise, we're gonna have another long season with piss poor offensive play because the offensive line can't get it done.
Jay Moore's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Jay, on the flip side of things, the defensive line, I thought they did, for the most part, a pretty good job stopping the ball between the tackles. There were a few drives where it looked like, I'm not sure if they were tired or if the momentum was just against them. That they struggled, but for the most part in the game, I thought they did a pretty good job stopping the run. Would you agree with that assessment? And just the defense as a whole, I know they gave up 30 points, but how would you rate their performance?
I thought they played well. I thought, the disappointing thing was that first drive after and into the second half. They came out a little sluggish, and obviously the momentum completely changed in that football game with the scoop of the score before half. But I thought the guys played fast. They played physical. They need to do a better job of setting the edge on some of those outside run plays. I think Garrett Nelson played really well rushing the passer, but sometimes he let that edge up a little too quickly and came inside. He needs to be better on setting that thing and keep it contained and funneling everything back to your help. But the effort, the physicality, there was mistakes made. It's always going to happen in game one. But overall, I thought their ability to get off the ball, get off some blocks, and make some plays, and play, in the backfield, I thought was really good. And that's kind of what we expected, right? And I was pretty happy with what they had. Like I said, the only disappointing thing was just that drive, coming after the second half. That was probably the most disappointing thing. But they made turnovers. I mean. Obviously you had the pick that gets called back, but they had the forced fumble there in the second quarter, and they made some good things. They got the quarterback, got some sacks, brought some pressure. So, first game against, a decent offense at best in Illinois. I'll take that. I just, you got to get some help from the other side of the football.
Jay, a few more minutes here. Jay Moore's with us, Big Red Wrap-Up, Husker, NFLer, and black shirt. Jay, a thought here with this coaching staff as you hear post-game comments, as you hear press conference moments, and then even coaches after practice this week. Do you feel like everyone's on the same page? It just sounds like there's different messaging.
Yeah, it does seem a little dysfunctional at times on that side of things. I am still a little perplexed that in this day and age, and that you're completely thrown off when a team comes out, and you're expecting a 3-4 front, but they come out in a 4-3 front. I mean, it should be pretty easy to be able to. I mean, that's basic football. It's not like they're coming out in a bear front, or I think, or something completely exotic. I mean, where everyone's standing up. But I mean, that was a little puzzling. I just think. So I think there's a little frustration happening, but I think just everyone's just got to get on the same page. And I know it's not as easy sometimes as it sounds like, but I mean the staff's been together for a while, and a little disappointing that it does sound a little chaotic at time. And hey, listen, I mean they better figure it out, right? I mean otherwise you have some real uncomfortable conversations, at the end of the season. So. Get on the same page, man, and just try to get this thing going to where it needs to go. I mean, you got to sell out as a staff. I mean, if you want this thing to go and get back right, you got to sell out. I mean, you got to get over egos. You got to get over control issues. You got to let things go. I mean, you got to be completely unselfish in saying, hey, I'm willing to give up this. I'm willing to take over this. I'm willing. Hey, I need your help on this. This would get this thing to where it needs to go, and hopefully those conversations have already been had, and to get this thing to where it should be at. Mm-hmm. But that's I'm not there, and this is big time college football, and coaches have the egos and they want control and control on certain things, so it could hopefully a lot of these guys aren't going to be coaching at Nebraska forever. They're trying to parlay this into a bigger job, so they want to be able to put their mark on it as well. So those are tough conversations, but hopefully the selfishness, the egos can be put aside and say, hey, this is what it's going to take. Then I'm willing to do whatever to make sure, we're, winning out this, or 8-4, 7-5, 6-6, whatever the hell it may be, right? Because it doesn't look very promising all of a sudden after this first loss. So get on the same page and put all this crap aside and get after it a little bit.
Jay will be watching Tuesday for Big Red Wrap-Up with Nebraska Fordham. Thanks for jumping on with us. Always great to chat with you, bud.
Yep, you got it. Thanks, fellas.
Good stuff from Blackshirt Husker NFLer and co-host Big Red Wrap-Up, Jay Moore. Loved hearing from Rick Pizzo to get our 2 kicked off. A Jock Doc on the way. We'll wind down a Wednesday. It's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday. Lincoln Orthopedic Center, Dr. Doug Tavis with us. Dr. Doug, welcome into September. How you doing?
Not too bad, Chris. How are you doing today?
Doing a lot better than Braves second baseman Ozzie Albies. My Lord. He fouled one off that left knee in the batter's box. He's a lefty. He's an all-star and one of the top hitters for Atlanta, who's having a great season. And teammates had to carry him off. Man, this happened in the 5th inning.
Yeah, these things happen so fast that, it's almost literally a blink of an eye, and you go, whoa, wait a minute, what just happened there? The guy's laying down at the plate, But things can happen very quickly when the ball fouls off that bat, and the guys can take a pretty good shot, which is what happened on him. Well,
I look at Albies, and he's got the outside elbow protector, some armor, so to speak. And
sure.
I always kind of made fun of Junior for wearing the Barry Bonds shin protector and then the elbow guard. But I tell you what, Albies was wishing he had a knee brace or something because this thing looks pretty nasty. Now, X-rays were negative, Dr. Doug, but that doesn't mean that Albies is out of the woods at all. You've experienced this before, haven't you, Dr. Doug?
Yeah, this is kind of an unusual scenario, but we had one of our Lincoln Salt Dogs players that had essentially the identical injury, and the ball comes down and hits him in the front corner of his leg bone just below the knee. And same thing, had to be carted off the field, just couldn't bear weight on the thing. X-rays were fine. Because he doesn't get better over the course of I think it was 10 days or so, we do a follow-up X-ray on him, and we find that he's got a hairline fracture going through the bone. And it just goes to show the degree of force that, occurs here. We talk about exit velocity, and stuff when guys are hitting home runs and stuff. We kind of don't remember how much velocity and force is all happening right there around the plate, with the ball coming in or a ball being tipped off of a bat. And it can be very, very significant. So basically, it's like a karate chop across the bone. And we may find out more, in the coming weeks about whether or not he's going to be able to get back out on this thing.
Dr. Doug Tavis with us, Lincoln Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Ozzie Albies, the standout for Atlanta. We're talking foul ball off of his knee, x-rays negative. So what is happening right now with Ozzie? Is it ice? Is it heat? Is it anti-inflammatory? I mean, what's kind of the timeline to re-examine this?
Yeah, sure. They're gonna pull out all the stops that they can to kind of get him feeling better, with the working assumption that he's got, a deep bruise, a bruise that goes into the bone. And they'll probably let him call his own shot about how much weight he puts on it. So they'll keep him on crutches until he feels like he can bear the weight against it. But when you're dealing with a contusion like that, there's a variety of different things that you can do with it. You can certainly do the icing. There are times where we can do some cryotherapy nerve blocks, which are sort of where you freeze the nerves a bit to decrease the pain. Acupuncture can work pretty well in a situation where there's a nerve or it's going to be a contusion like that. And of course, they're going to keep his knee moving, because the last thing we want to do is have him freeze up on the knee. But from a timeline perspective, if he's not able to bear weight over the course of the next week, they'll definitely be re-x-raying or getting an MRI scan on him.
With the Salt Dogs injury that you examined and treated, when a player fouled off a pitch on his knee, just how difficult is that to tell from x-ray when we talk hairline fractures?
Yeah, the initial x-ray, you just can't see anything at all. You don't recognize any kind of an injury. And what happens with a fracture, and sometimes you'll hear about this, where somebody goes to the emergency room and they do an x-ray and you can't see a fracture, and then it shows up, a little later. Well, the reason for that is because the first thing the body does to heal up a fracture is that it absorbs the bone right at the edge of the fracture, like for a millimeter or so around the fracture. And that fracture line then becomes visible on the x-ray, because the body has absorbed that little bit of bone, because that bone is technically dead bone to the body, and it needs to be replaced with living bone to heal the fracture. And so that's kind of how that works. You don't see anything, and then a week later, here's a crack running across the bone that you could not see on an initial x-ray. Now, on an MRI scan, you'd be able to tell that there was quite a bit of bleeding within the bone, and you might get a sense that, this is a bigger injury than what we thought it was. And so the MRI might be moved up somewhat early, but most of the time, these are just going to be contusions. The tip-off is going to be, if you can't bear weight on it, then they're going to do further investigation.
Dr. Doug Tavis with us, Lincoln Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Ozzie Albies, the second baseman for Atlanta, fouling off that pitch that clipped his knee, and x-rays negative right now. As I look at Albies and his stance, kind of a little bit of an open stance where you have that back leg, that back knee really kind of sticking out, is where he grazed himself. But that's also his back plant leg. With tenderness and with this injury, is that something that could linger and affect his power, affect his pop, so to speak, in the box?
Yeah, so, if it's a contusion, I don't think it'll be a big issue, other than they'll figure out a way to pad him up like you do with Junior. And if it turns out to be something strange, like we had with that player with the Salt Dogs, then he's going to be out. He will be out for the rest of the year if it turns out to be that hairline fracture across there, because if that's the case, it won't heal fast enough for him to be able to bear that weight against it and twist the way he has to twist, with full weight against that on that back leg. So, it's very unlikely that it would turn out to be a fracture. But if it does, it's going to be the end of the season for him.
When it comes to speed, is there going to be some lingering pain, even if he's cleared and ready to go? I mean, is this going to hamper his speed? I ask that because he's got a rare combination of power and speed where he leads baseball in extra base hits. So even if it's not going out of the yard, it's finding its way to the gap, and he's got enough giddy up to get to second or third.
Yeah, he'll probably, again, with a contusion, he'll probably be fine. I don't think you'll see him miss anything in terms of his speed there. Honestly, it may be more of an issue of just will he position that leg in harm's way to be able to continue to, stroke the ball the way that he's used to doing it, or is there going to be a little bit of a mental block with that? And that may be the bigger issue.
Dr. Doug Tavis with us, Lincoln Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Dr. Doug, thanks for a few minutes today.
You bet. Get more padding for your son.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Wednesday. We are loaded up today and back at it tomorrow. So if you missed any part of the show, the podcast, Hail Varsity Radio, will be uploaded momentarily. Also, some of the 2-minute drill SoundCloud moments picked out by Elijah Herbel. Good stuff from Mike Babcock, Rick Pizzo, and Jay Moore. Tomorrow on the show, another Searles of Wisdom moment. Jeremiah Searles, our favorite Viking, Husker, Buffalo Bill, Charger, going to be with us. It is Barney time. Gary Barnett with us. Brandon Vogel will talk some ball with us. And then the Pride of Chicago, Danny Burke, Burke's Best Bets. Friday, again, we are at the Single Barrel. The Single Barrel now inside the Graduate. We love doing shows inside the Graduate. We are so jacked, man, to be doing shows with Single Barrel, amazing food, and yes, incredible bourbon. I mean, that is a place in heaven for me. When I can, do I want the thick bone-in steak? Do I want the prime rib? I was there. I took Duda at state tournament time, and I had the mother of all bone-in pork chops. And me and pork. I mean, it's just a good thing.
Mm-hmm. My only thing
you're pausing uncomfortably.
Well, it's just I'm too broke to hit steakhouses usually and go and order the steak. I'll go,
brother,
ooh.
I'm going to call in my debt someday, and I'm going to say, Elijah, we're going to breakfast at the Single Barrel. We're going to go lunch at the Single Barrel. We're going to do dinner at the Single Barrel. And I'm going to see Elijah standing outside of Walmart,
Anything helps.
With a pair of Air Jordans on saying, give me money.
Need to buy steaks. Anything helps.
Oh, boss, from illegal gambling operation. Kidding. But no. Hey, Fordham, well, if you're coming into town, wherever you hear us across the state, or you're in Lincoln, come see us 4 to 6. Get a bourbon, get a drink, get a beer, get a steak, get a pork chop. Dust off your golf ability with the Top Golf Suites. And big day, man. Cranak's going to be riding shotgun.
Oh, wow. That's going to be fun.
And there is going to be a Bill Dolman in-person sighting.
It just sounds like the best of every aspect of this show. We're getting Cranak in. We're getting Bill Dolman in on headset. There's going to be steaks, and there's going to be golf.
We're working on Matt Millen, too, on site. So,
I mean, the only thing that's missing is Searles, but we got Searles tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm excited for him.
It's funny how you introduced him because you made sure nobody could disagree with you. It's our favorite ex-Husker who is also on the Vikings, and he was also on the Bills, and he was also on the Chargers.
He's my favorite offensive lineman.
There it is. There was that one time whenever you called him our favorite ex-Husker, and I said, really? I don't see Rex Burkhead in there, and he just about killed me. I have never seen
well, he was across the window from you. He got up.
Yeah.
He took the door off. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Saw him at the press conference, and he's like, So how was the drive back? I was back by 7 p.m. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Should know. I saw today the line has released from Vegas for the Nebraska Fordham game, which was a little. It had been taking them a while to come out with it, and I believe the Huskers are favored by like 40. That was what I checked. It may have moved since this morning, but it was a Huskers. Can I
be a
favorite.
jerk for 2 more minutes? These 2 hours, they better win by 80.
I want to see the backups in like the whole second half.
I need to see Harburg third quarter, please. But again, we're not rooting. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock, Hail Varsity. Thanks for tuning in. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.